All right. Hello, everyone. Just going to take a little bit of time here and make sure I have everything going. All right. Good. The synthesizer's working. Logic Pro looks like it's doing okay. OBS is doing fine, and everything is good to go. So, for these first couple of minutes, what I'd like to do is I just like to welcome you to probably my first live stream in this case. And I'm really looking forward to this. It's been many years since I've played Halo, the original, the one that first came out on the Xbox. And so there's when I decided to do this live stream, I was thinking, how many hours did I spend playing this actual game, and also just evaluating the music, the characters, the game design, the graphics on the Xbox, right? And it was surreal around this time. I believe I was barely in college at the time, and it was one of those games where it was definitely a life changing moment when I think about it now. Um, the hours spent, the storyline, I really enjoyed the story. Um, I remember my first big scare was actually from Halo when the flood first appeared. That was me. Like, that was all over the place. It was very scary for me for that. So, welcome everyone, Joshua, Susan, and Matt. Thank you for being here. And I know there are others of you that are here as well. Feel free to jump into the chat. I'll try my best to check in the chat here and there from time to time. But if you have any questions, anything you want to add, anything you want to say, or just some questions to ask, feel free to do that at any time. Yeah, definitely. It is. It was actually my friend owned the game. He actually worked at GameStop, right? The GameStop of today with all the stocks things that are going on right now. He worked at GameStop and he got the game, and he said, you know what, we're gonna stay up all night. We're gonna play through the entire thing, and that's what we did. And I tell you, those are really good times. So let's see here. Looks seems like we're doing pretty well on time. Yeah, Halo 5 Guardians. I haven't played that one yet. But for me, it was just Halo 1 and I believe 2. Just 1 and 2. And so and the others I just read up on and I see other people play it, obviously, because I don't have an Xbox anymore. In this case, I have a computer. And so, yeah, definitely some of the old school stuff, those are my favorite. And the graphics were before their time, honestly, and just the maps, the design itself was very intriguing. So, enough about that. Just a little bit about this, what this stream will be about. It is a music evaluation as well as a reaction of VoicePlay's Halo theme cover. Now, VoicePlay, if you don't know too much about them, they are based out of Orlando, Florida, and they perform their own unique brand of entertainment, all over the country, all over the world. And I would say, in terms of different flavors of styles, these guys have it down. They have the lowest of lows, the highest of highs, and their arrangements are very they have sort of like a rockapella influence, but just they take it a step further, and I believe that's their term, the phrases that they use too, right? Original, imaginative, ridiculous, a cappella. And so, just a little bit about them. We have Eli Jacobson on tenor, Cesar de la Rosa on baritone tenor 2, Jeff Castellucci on bass, and Lane Stein on vocal percussion. And there is a guest singer whom I feel like I should know who they are, but I'll just go ahead and let him introduce himself because I believe he does that a little bit later on in the video, I was able to. I needed to find sort of like a what do you call that? Uh, I needed to find a thumbnail, and so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna push play, but I'll just kind of move through. And then I saw that he was at the end of the video. He talks to us a little bit, so that's gonna be good for us there. All right, a little bit about we talked about Halo, so just to kind of prep us on this, this song is in the key of E minor. There are two sharps. For the most part, the original is what I'm talking about. The original is starts off with this surreal soundscape, and then you have this amazing chant that occurs, and it is an original chant, and it follows these scales, right? It has these notes in here. So you have your bum 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 bum, your minor scale, and then you have the raised sixth, the flat seven, and then back to the tonic. And so that raised sixth, it really gives us that heightened sound, almost as if like we're leaning in to a dominant key, but it's still in minor, and it's a very powerful sequence that they use there. And so a little bit about the chant itself, they use Oz, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Chanticleer did a cover of this for Halo 2, and I believe they were in the studio. I'll have to go back and find that for us, but I remember them singing the Halo 2 the chant for Halo 2. Whether or not it made it to the game or on a CD, I'm not sure. But for the most part, that's what that was a pretty cool thing right there. So we start off in that minor, and then you have that raised sixth, and then we come back down, and then instead of going right, so we never raise that seventh, and that flat seven really sets us up into the material at hand. But I want to hear what VoicePlay does, and so what I'll do is we'll do a complete playthrough. I won't stop it, and then I'll pull it back, and we'll go from there. All right. So let's see here. We have let's go ahead and jump right into here. And I'll go ahead and move. Oh, this mouse is a little finicky today. There we go. So I'll go ahead and move myself out of the way. And let's take a listen.
What's up, everybody? Scott Porter here to personally...
Wow, that was pretty amazing all the way through. I wanted a full playthrough so that way I can, one, absorb what they were doing, and two, kind of break each part down through and through. There's some really great things that are happening, and of course, the number one thing that does blow me away, of course, is Jeff's sub-harmonics, and it's just amazing. It's really beefy if you have headphones. And what's cool about it is that they do layer him in the upper octave, and I can see where sometimes people get a little, there's some confusion there, right? If you don't have the headphones that can respond all the way down to a B0, which is near the end of the piano, it can truly you lose a lot of the soundscape. But if you don't have headphones, what's great is that he does layer a B1 as well. And I believe there's another person who does it. It seems like that's what that is. But there is a B1 that is happening as well in this case. So let's move back a little bit here from the very beginning. This is really cool in that you start off with an E1, right? And it's already pulled you in. And they're really good. VoicePlay is really good at doing this, is that they pull you in and they keep you engaged the entire time. So let's start from the beginning again. So yeah, it is right there. So you can hear the B1 and the B0, and it's great. A little something about sub-harmonics in general is that I have a little chart here for us. I believe it's on. I moved it to scene. Was it scene 6? Yes. So a little bit about sub-harmonics, right? We have. I've sort of categorized or codified this for us a little bit, and give or take a couple of notes, and you can add a little bit more. Maybe your voice is a little bit differently in these areas, but for the most part, this tends to be the natural parts that occur in sub-harmonics. So what you have is Jeff is already at the E1 right here, which is in the quiet pulse-like sound. And for us, I believe one of the questions says, any recommendations to get sub-harmonics sounding more like chest, like Jeff? So the idea is, one, you let the voice, you have to start the sub-harmonic on the note, and you just slightly add that vocal fry at the very top to allow the lower octave to happen. And one problem that a lot of people have, and I myself included, is that we engage and we try to push it all the way through. And so what happens is, instead of being quiet and pulse-like, we try to push that to project when we don't need to do that at all. And so what Jeff does really well is that when he sings that E1, he can, sorry, when he sings that E2, he can just kind of layer that sub-harmonic right on in and just allow the mic to do what it does. In a live performance, I don't know how well it would translate. I mean, I've done an E1 in concert before, and those E1s come and go. They're not very, it's there and it was present, but in terms of what he's able to project, I don't think he's going for a projection in this setting right here. So when you're going down from E1 to B1, you are actually going into the lower octave. And typically for a bass, after about D2, C sharp to maybe even C2, they start to have to negotiate. There has to be a little bit more negotiation that occurs in terms of, okay, do I keep the weight of my voice, or do I project it, or can I balance it? And so for him to be able to do a B0 with sub-harmonics is a feat in itself. And I think I saw it in one of his in one of the tweets or something, saying that this was Jeff's lowest note in terms of sub-harmonics in this case. And it's it's true, and that's a really powerful note to have. Um, once in a while, I'll have it. It's not in my daily tone, if you want to call it that. And for me, I'm actually more of a power user in the F1, G1, A1, B1 range. So you'll have different types of subharmonic users, right? You have those who can do it really low and they have really great tone. But once they get to G1 or A1, it gets very difficult. And that's because of either the setting that they are at or where they are in their voice and or just their experience. And sometimes you have to kind of shift a little bit to get those. Now, moving on from G1 to A1, B1, C2, this is where a lot of the power is for subharmonics, and this is typically where your most common bass, baritone, or even tenor can kind of sing through. And for whatever reason, this kind of coincides with the bass baritone passaggio a couple octaves up. And whether or not it's related, I'm not 100% sure. But what I do know is that this area has the most power. When you get any higher, from D2 on, gets a little bit brighter, gets throaty, almost like it's a little bit harder to control. And above that, just sounds like a distortion. It can be pretty bad and unmusical, and probably not even used at times. So this little chart here, these are just typical results. These are not 100% like, okay, all C1s are quiet, all G1s are powerful, and all D2s are bright and throaty. That's not the case. These are just things that you have to overcome when you are dealing with this area, right? If you're singing an A1, you have to be careful on how heavy it can be for the choir. So for me, whenever I'm on an A1 or a B flat 1, I try to be very careful in how I approach it so that I can balance with my section. Now, if I'm singing with a really big section, sure, why not just let loose? But if it's just me by myself and I have a couple of baritones and some basses to balance with, I have to be aware of those things. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, so that's just a very long conversation for subharmonics. Moving on a little bit about the arrangement. I really enjoy the entrance of the beatbox here, so let's get to that. Yeah, so that beatbox it's amazing. I was like, okay, how is he going to imitate this entire section of percussion and strings? And so when you only have 5 voices, you have to be very creative, right? You have to have something that draws you in. One thing that I did miss that that wasn't in here, and that could just be the way they arranged it, was the octave jump. Right? Dum 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 dum, dum 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 dum, dum 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 dum. Like that octave jump for me, whenever you're dealing with octave jumps or octave displacements, that rocks the boat big time, right? It really pulls you in. It's not dum 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 dum, which is what Jeff's saying, and it's not that it's bad. It's just you're missing that jump, right? It's almost like as a gamer, like when you hear that boom boom boom, you feel like you're floating, almost like in Halo. Like if you were to jump, you have that hang time, and you have a little bit more finesse with your character, or a little bit more uncertainty of where you're going to land or where you're going to move, and that's what those octave displacements were really important. So that's what I missed out of it, but it was made up in a little bit of a change here in what Jeff does. So if you listen to what he does in the bass. So dum 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 dum. So he has one of those blues note in there. You have that boom 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 boom, and that in itself is pretty cool. When I heard that the first time, the beatbox overall is stellar. Some of these sounds like I wish I can do on a daily. Like I can just do it on command and within a pattern, but I'll leave it to Lane for that. Right, so you got you have that almost like that whistle sound that kind of kind of adds a certain effect to it, and that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to check back in the chat right here. Yes, Jeff, according to some of his videos, he said he did have an A1, even a G sharp one. That's pretty much there for the most part. Um, I believe there was a live stream where he went down to an F, which is pretty cool. Let's see here. Yeah, C sharp 0 and vocal fry for Tim Storms. Is that right? Or no, that's still Jeff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The interesting thing about fry. The comment in the chat is fry is not that often very useful in general. I mean, Tim Storms has a nice vocal fry range and tone, but not that many people have it, and there is some validity in that. For me, I'd like to look at fry as a tool, almost like a mechanic, right? When you think of fry as a basic mechanic that pulls your voice together, 100% adduction, meaning that it just brings it together. It makes it shorter, and it doesn't allow air through completely unless you are producing some sort of pitch. So what that means to me as a singer is that this is 100% phonation with the least amount of air. So you are at 100% when you do vocal fry, and you're only letting out bits and pieces or pulses of air or puffs of air through. Now, the problem, of course, is that there's no tone. And what some people have been able to do was they've been able to stretch their folds slightly to the point to where they allow some tone through. In terms of a demonstration, it's kind of hard for me to do. I'll get it once in a while, but if I'm doing vocal fry, right, right, all that is it's just allowing my voice to be a certain way. It's just allowing my voice to kind of go through and hang on in that area. But if I put some tone to it, uh, 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 right, I can start to develop some tone. And if you recall one of Jeff's videos regarding how to sing low, he actually uses vocal fry to allow him to get to the top. And a lot of vocal coaches, they use vocal fry in a therapeutic way. That allows them to get proper chord closure so that when they go to the top, their voice doesn't break apart, or they don't over pressurize or try to push their way through. They are already at 100%. They just need the right amount of air to allow it to phonate. So that's what vocal fry is. And there are obviously speech type vocal fry and then some disorders with vocal fry. I don't want to get into that because that's a whole different video in this case. So, all right. Great. Let's move on a little bit. I really enjoy what they do with the highs here. So let's jump here a little bit. And there you go. Finally, that's where I heard it. He does the octave displacement there, right, in the background, and then you have this amazing soloist that just comes through, and almost like it's ethereal that occurs, and that actually happens in the track as well. If you listen to the background, there's that that really high voice, that obligato that occurs in the back, and obligato is basically something that it's a melodic line or a phrase that cannot be omitted from the music. And for me, I was listening for that, right? Because it happens in the music, and I was hoping that they wouldn't leave it out, and sure enough, they didn't, which is great. And then you have here the something like that. So so you have that really high E right now. And that's crazy high. That is crazy high. I think I can warm up to that note, but to be able to use it in context. no way. I don't even want to try. But it's so great because it really draws our attention to that, right? Because we're missing strings, we're missing heavy percussion, and we're missing a lot of bass, and yet here they are pulling through these ideas. Now, if you think about old school video games, think about the limitations of old school, right? And this is the basic premise of contemporary a cappella, is not necessarily to completely imitate an orchestra or a wave of sounds or all these different ideas, but to pull the necessary frames, the most necessary material out, and give that idea, give those concepts a little bit more life. And what I mean by that is, if you think of old school games like Nintendo games or Super Nintendo games, there is a hardware limitation, and that's what occurs here in contemporary a cappella when the singers don't layer. I'm assuming that they're not trying to overlayer their voice with all these different parts, besides for effect and a couple of layers for drums and etc. Maybe bass here and there, but I'm not talking about where you have 5 voices trying to do 50 voices. These guys are pretty much doing a 5-part harmony. And so with that hardware limitation for the a cappella group, you have to fine tune what is most important, what needs to jump out first, what can I do in the background, and how can I lead the audience to still maintain their energy. And so that part becomes really important and becomes it's a testament to the arrangement of this piece. Yeah, I really love the visual effect as well. So you got that, all those tum, 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 almost like these bells that are going on, and that's really, really cool. It's so cool to the point to where it's like, okay, I would love to see this live to see how it goes, because you really have to have the timing for that, right? It's not just you go now and then I'll go. You have to have the entire phrase as if you're singing it all by yourself, but you're just allowing your part to come through at the right time. All right, so it looks like we're doing pretty well in the chat here. Yeah, great. A vocal fry is therapeutic, and you can do really well. I think I do think that it is underrated, and unfortunately, a lot of people shy away from it because the media has given it kind of like a bad light, right? When you hear fry, you think of someone who doesn't speak with authority, someone who speaks off of their voice, like they don't care about what's going on because their voice just trails off. So there is a physical perception of it as well. And then you have your disorders where it sounds like it's fry, or you have smokers who unfortunately destroy their voices, and they have to use fry to get into it. So there's all this negativity around it, but no one really looks at the mechanic to really find that, oh wow, if I actually can use this, I can find better chord closure as I descend, and I can get lower notes. And that's actually how Jeff was able to obtain those low notes as well. It was that he's able to use that. Not saying that he's frying everything. What I'm saying is that he's using that for chord closure, and that allows him to open up into the bottom without feeling like he's detaching from his voice. Okay, so I think we're almost to the end here. Let's give it a final listen.
Team.
really like that breakdown. So any typically when you have music that's in this music is in 12/8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you get to you have almost as if it's doubled its time as opposed to not doing double time where it's going quicker, but it feels like the beat is falling on different beats, and that gives us almost like a right. It kind of pulls us back a little bit in that sense, and notice how they pull the brakes too for us, and it's almost like it's stopping a little bit. Okay, and so yeah, there's some really great things that are going on, and then we have here, and it finishes out again. So there you have it. A voice play, really nicely done. I follow these guys often. I try to check their arrangements here and there, and keep up with them. For the most part, I mean, some really cool things. And so let's see how we are in any questions. Looks like we're doing okay. All right, so let's go ahead and stop this here. Yeah, yeah, you guys, you're welcome. This is, I mean, this is what I do. I do already when I'm teaching, and I try to get all my students to understand that the music itself has has rhetoric, right? It has its own story, and when you're dealing with something that has follows the scale, right? And you'll notice in the music itself, it's almost speech-like, right? It's not oh, it's not just going up and down the scale, but it's actually there's some contrary motion and then some skips. Oh, oh, right, and those skips really gives us almost like kind of builds that soundscape for us, and it gives us a sense of okay, something's going to happen, something really powerful is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen because there's only one bass line, right? You get that low E, right? And for me, low E comes and goes, so I don't even think I have it right now, right? Yeah. And so it takes me a while to get back into it, especially if I've been teaching all day. I have to search for it. So if you've just started with sub-harmonics, there's no need to worry about okay, can I get it today? Am I going to be a master at this? You know, even the greats have really bad days, and who knows? Maybe Jeff recorded it in one take. Maybe it took him all the takes just to get that B0, or it took him just the third up to the third take. Either way, it's when it comes to contemporary a cappella, there is a sense of developing soundscape, right? It's not just about I did this in chest voice or I did this in head voice or look at how big my range is. It's about the story, and it's about how well you can show that story with only limited hardware, which is 5 voices. And that's the beauty of contemporary a cappella, because you don't have a huge 60 voice choir, but you have to make it work. And that's where the power of the engineer, the power of the microphones, and the voices have to come into play. All right, so we are at our, I believe, right about, yeah, it's 7:37 on my watch. If you have any other questions, I'll kind of hang out here for a little bit. I would love to answer them. And keep the stream going just so I can answer some of those questions. But for the most part, that is your reaction video. If you like this video, subscribe, share it with someone. If you don't subscribe, I really don't mind. I just love evaluating music at a different level, you know. And I see all these other reaction videos, and they're really cool. It's like, oh, that's so great. There are only a few that I really enjoy, and of course, one of them is a really good friend and bass brother of mine. For those of you that do know, Peter Barber, who has his own channel, and he does all the reactions, and I love his reaction videos because he gets into the technicalities. He talks about the phrasing. He talks about the vocal technique, and all of that is just so vital for us as a community, as a voice community. And so if you get a chance, check him out. Peter Barber, just search it on YouTube.